Welcome back. We are on ride 17 now, and I'm so excited. It is like 40 degrees today. I'm just so happy that the air isn't hurting my face and I can just wear this instead of a full-on face mask. Let me look at the weather. I'll show you guys what the weather is. Let's see. Oh, look at that. 39. You got that? Yes, cameraman? Okay. Sorry, bud. And it feels like it's 34, so we're already ahead of the game. All right, stick my phone in my half chap. So, welcome back. This is LR Blue Ambrose, and we are on ride number 17, and we're gonna go get it done in the arena today. Ground's looking pretty good out there. I've already rode one horse out there today, and hopefully it'll hold up a little bit longer to finish this out. We got only 3 rides left. So keep on watching and make sure you subscribe and make sure you like this video. Thanks. Oh, I also forgot to say that he hasn't had a day off either in between yesterday's ride and today. I can always tell when my arena ground is changing with the weather. The horses that are turned out in the arena, they start to make these paths down to the other end of the arena when they walk, and creatures of habit, they leave me these grooves in the arena, and if we try to go in with a tractor and tear it up, what happens is we just get great big chunks. So that's even harder for a horse to work in. So it's really delicate to try to work this arena, and kind of the give and take of dealing with the temperature and the weather and the little bit of moisture in it and the dryness of it all. It just kind of sucks having to deal with that, but you learn how to work around it. I'm going to spend a couple laps here just walking, warming up a little bit, stretching out, kind of getting a feel for the ground, let him feel it before I really ask him to do anything just yet. See how he's feeling. I'm going to go ahead and start with a little bend. This is easiest to do when you have a fence there and using it for a crutch. You can take that rein that's closest to the front fence, bend his nose into the fence, take that rein up towards your opposite shoulder, use that inside leg and push him off of it and start to get him to move his body over with the use of rein and leg. And you can see it really good when he comes this direction. And now we're starting to get lateral here. And I only want to ask for it for a few steps and then give him something else to do, clear his mind, and come back and do it again. This is where we can see burnout really easy and get them mad really easy, and then they'll resent us. So right here, one thing I pick up on myself is I have his head way too much. I've taken too much of his head right there, and I didn't have enough rib and hip control there, and that's my leg. So let's go back to the conversation about the bit, and the bit being your lateral control. Again, I don't believe the bit creates your lateral control. Your lateral control comes from your legs and your support of them with your legs. So you just saw right there, I was taking too much of his head, and then it ended up kind of blowing the whole technique. And it happens, we see it happen on so many levels, especially with gals at barrel races that are always looking for the magic bit to get their horse to turn. And they'll go to a bigger bit, or more gag, or more bend, or more turn, and they'll get their horse's head bent, and the body doesn't follow, because the body either A, physically can't follow because it's not strong enough, doesn't have the muscle memory, or you, as a rider, the person isn't supporting the horse enough in the turn. Lots and lots of different scenarios, and we saw it at the most foundational level here with this colt in ride 17, that I was just taking too much of his head, and he couldn't get the maneuver done, and he wasn't giving me enough rib cage and enough hip. So I think if people go back to their very, very basics and improve on these things without the bigger and bigger and bigger equipment, they're going to see a lot more improvement in their horse. And it can be done at the slowest of levels too. I'm going to work him in a trot here to start, and I'm going to work off the rail. Now remember, I like having that rail there as a crutch when I need it, but I also like to be able to work off the rail because I don't want my horses to balance off of it. And what I'm going to do is a little bit of spiraling here and bring him in to the circle and then move him out. And I want to keep him on the bend. And so you can see as I come through right here, me elevating that inside rein up towards my outside shoulder. And right here, moving him out further away. And, when they're just learning this, you just want a few steps at a time. You want to recognize the try. That's where you're going to get in trouble if you keep on pushing and pushing and pushing. So little teeny bits at a time, and that's going to get you a whole lot further than really drilling on this stuff. So lots of spiral work, and spirals are real big with barrel racers, but you know what, they're super effective with colts too, with these young guys learning their balance, learning how to move away from leg pressure, learning how to control the size of their circle. And again, I'll get folks that go, well, we don't need to be able to work, we don't have to work in the arena, we don't use arena stuff, we ride out. Well, it all improves their balance. Everything that improves their balance and builds their strength and develops them as a whole individual is going to help everybody, no matter what their end career goal is in mind. Whether they're going to drag calves to the fire, whether they're going to go rope, whether they're going to run barrels, whether they're going to be a pleasure horse that goes just down the trail. This all makes a difference. So I change directions with him here. I spiral down, I spiral out, in and out. I don't stay on the same circle for any period of time. Again, it's really, really hard on them, and it's also really hard on their joints too, especially at this age, to just drill on that same circle. So you want to make it bigger and be able to, balance it in and out, and stay on that same circle. In the next set here, I'm going to try my hand at a little bit of counter bending. So I'm going to be taking him to the right, taking his head to the left, You know, few little steps at a time. You really got to get control of their shoulders doing this. You know, this is the foundation for my loping side pass right here. And then being able to have that suppleness through the face, neck, shoulders, rib cage, and hips is really going to improve upon all of the other techniques that you ask of them. So it's just another way to get them soft and compliant and make sure they're listening to you. But I really like he's starting to try for me here and continue to move on that circle while I take his head the other way. And there's no hard fast rules at this stage. You know, if I get a couple of steps, I release him, let him go straight. Get a couple more steps, release and let him go straight. It doesn't have to be a perfect circle right out in the middle or right in one of the corners. You know, we're just trying to introduce the experience at this point and what we're asking for. This isn't a dressage test by any means, or a cowboy dressage test, or a reining pattern. We're just starting to initiate moving those shoulders over and counter-arcing that body. And I'm not really getting after it or anything here, but this is a little bit faster trot than he was doing before. And when it's time to play game over, he still has to be able to play game over. He still has to walk quiet when I put the reins down. If you were going to go into the roping box, he still needs to be quiet when he walks in there, sets up, and whether he's going to score the next steer or he's going to go out and rope the next steer, he needs to go quiet. If he's going to go to the barrel pen, whether we're just going to go do a trotting exhibition run or we're going to go make a run, he's got to be able to go quiet. And that's what this curriculum does. And this is how I break it up. So I go back to work again, pick up my reins, and work on that counter arc again. I try really hard to still post with the diagonal of the direction we're going, so rising when that inside front is on the ground. Sometimes you'll see me just sit, and I'm really trying to drive them forward with my seat, and I'm trying to use more legs, and sometimes I feel like I can be more effective if I just sit the trot and drive with my seat and legs. I do that a little bit right through here. The only time that I'll really post with, say, the outside diagonal, like in this case, if I were posting with the right one and I was rising and falling with that right leg, I would do that when I'm trying to pick up the false lead or trying to pick up the right lead, because there's a time and a place to pick up the outside lead. Like if you're going left to pick up the right lead, or if you're going right to pick up the left lead, there's a time and a place to do that, and that's when I'll change my diagonal and deliberately post on that diagonal. He turns a nice little 360 here, break it up into 2 pieces, and he takes into a trot. So he's learned that we always go out of the maneuver faster than we went in. And that's one way that I teach speed leaving a turn. Another 360 here, and he's going to take a step back on me. I'm okay with that in this beginning because that's rocking his weight to his hind end rather than pushing forward into my hands. Again, we take a trot afterwards, and he doesn't blast into it, he goes into it quietly. And again, that's a sign that he's learning the techniques, he's comfortable with the techniques. And he comes back down to a walk quietly here for me. And that's just another sign that he understands the game. He gets it. He knows that it's all just a game. And there's no reason to have any sort of anxiety or get upset or get mad or angry about it. So he struggles just a teeny bit there. I've got him bent and he backed up a couple of steps. I'm okay with that. He still kept his weight to his hind end and rolled right on through. If they get a little strong through the bridle, you can bend them around into a smaller circle. That's going to help take out some of the forward momentum and bring them back down and get them quiet again. And he comes right back down to a walk pretty easily for me. Lick and choose, walking quiet with his head long and low. We just down-regulated him. Oh, something else I forgot to point out here is that I started doing this to the right. And we all remember, if we've been following along this whole time, is he's been struggling to the right. And so I deliberately work on his right side first on some of these harder maneuvers because that's when I have energy. So you have to be able to read your horse. If you have the energy and he's focused, you can work on the tougher side first and while he's still fresh. If he's too fresh and you have feet that are moving way too fast, then you work on your easy or good side first, and that's gonna ride them down just a little bit so you have more focus mentally to work on their side that comes a little bit tougher to them. So you just have to be able to read your horse and adjust and adapt according to that specific horse's needs. But I find most of the time I just work on their tougher side first, the side that they struggle on. So I want you to see what happens here when he gets too much on the forehand. Okay, this is where the head tucks too tight into his chest. He gaps his mouth a little bit. He swings the hind end more rather than locking it in place. So when I go back to the symptoms of them not using their hind end, when they tuck that head in too tight, and folks will think that that is like some great form of collection, you know, it's really a symptom of them not using their hind end, like in that case of that last 360 we just did. He tucked his head in too tight. He's cheating me just a little bit. It's more of a turn on the belly button than it is a turn on the haunches. And he's not holding that hind end in place. I take my trot again here. I start to ask for some impulsion, ask for a faster speed within the trot gait, preparing him to take the lope. I'm going to support with the inside leg, elevate with my inside rein slightly, and ask with my outside leg. And he kind of blasted into it a little bit on me, and he's pretty speedy at first. It took quite a few laps to kind of ride him down a little bit and get his mind right and get him thinking about what we were doing here. But he kind of wanted to blast for just a little bit. Once he starts to get a little bit of cadence to his lope, I start to spiral him down and make some of the circles a little bit smaller than they were. Again, we're building muscle memory and we're developing balance and strength on each lead. I'm having to drive him really hard through my seat and legs. And he's thinking about breaking down on me. This is what a smaller circle will do to them. It'll make them break down from whatever speed they're going to the next slower speed. And so you always use that circle to your advantage. Changing up the maneuvers is going to prevent anticipation and anxiety. So we hadn't worked on a roll away at all this entire ride so far. So throwing that in there put him on his toes and made him think a little bit. Now there's going to be another little glitch here in the video as my cameraman had to take a little break and pause recording for a second. So I apologize for that transition there. Now I'm going to prepare him to pick up a lope going this direction after we walk around and play game over for a little bit. So I'm going to speed up his trot, post on the correct diagonal to pick up the right lead here. And he takes it really nice. He doesn't go blasting into it the way he did going to the left. Now he still wants to be a little speedy on me, but he didn't blast into it. So you kind of, you take your trade-offs. After riding him down for a few laps this direction, I'm going to work on just spiraling him down to a little bit smaller circle and then spiraling back out again. Developing cadence on a circle in the arena like this is going to help his balance and his cadence when you lope him out across the pasture after a pair, or when you're loping down the fence line, checking your fence line. So it all goes hand in hand. It makes it really difficult to track up after a calf if they can't control their own speed. And it makes it really difficult to do pattern work if they can't adjust their speed properly. So most people don't have a good basic handle with some knowledge of collection, balance, and cadence in all three gaits with their horses before they try to go do a speed event, pattern work, or tracking a calf. And now I know there's a lot to tracking a calf that really does wonders for a horse's mind and for their balance and their stride length, but where I'm going with this is the ones that are just really too fast and speedy, and they usually go blowing past the calf, and it's because they don't have enough natural rate. That's kind of the direction I'm going with this, so don't come for me, those of you out there that are watching this that do a lot of cattle work. I think you guys understand what I'm talking about here. But what I'm also referring to is the folks that go run towards the barrel and they want this collection to the barrel and they want the horse to slow down and make the turn, and the horse just can't because they don't know how to carry themselves at any speed, let alone at the rate of speed necessary to properly execute a barrel turn. As I walk by here, you can see in my half chap that I have my cell phone kind of tucked away there. I haven't talked about this in several rides, but I'm always trying to keep my cell phone on me, and inside the pocket of the sweatshirt is really kind of a pain because it bangs on the saddle horn. In a back pocket, it doesn't really work either because you can't sit properly in the saddle, but I always try to have it on me. That's the reason for the Bluetooth in my ear. I have had to use it. I have come off in the arena and been laying there and need somebody to come and get me. So, you know, err on the side of safety, err on the side of caution. Keep your cell phone on you if you can. So I just did a rollaway there, asked him to trot out of it, and then let him come down to a walk. And what I'm trying to work on here is loping out of that rollaway. So we had a couple of trot strides and then we loped out of it. I'm going to lope him in a small circle here to break him back down to a trot and ease him back down. And then I'm going to set him up again to stop, roll away, and hopefully pick up right lead. And so this is where I was asking him, and he took too many trot strides, he fell out of frame, and he picked up the wrong lead. So I break him down and reset him back up to play the game again. So I'm going to take him back to the left, and I'm going to stop him and roll him right again to pick up that right lead. And what you'll see is that it's a matter of timing getting the timing correct is so important when you ask for those leads, when they're set up in the proper body position to pick it up. He took less trot strides to get into that. Did you notice that? If you didn't see it, go back and watch again the first time around. He took too many trot strides and he fell out of frame when I had him set up. This time he took it that much faster. So that's really important. That's when I talk about the transitions. You know how broke a horse is getting when their transitions are faster and smoother. Okay, so we're just trying to develop him and get him more broke and more smoother through these transitions. Now I'm just cooling him out, playing game over with him, making sure he finishes on a really quiet, relaxed note. And I took the opportunity here to back him up. I hadn't really backed him up the entire ride. He doesn't back up in a perfect straight line and he's starting to cock his hip off to the right. That tells me that either A, I'm not supporting him well enough with my legs, or B, he is still pretty stiff through that left side and he needs to be developed more with some stretching and bending and some other exercises to soften up and supple him up through that left side. You can always tell in a backup when they lock up on you, and if they can't do a straight line, it's usually the opposite side that needs a little bit more work. And so right here, I'm going to work the gait with him for the first time. I hadn't done it up until this point. And I'm just really quiet in my movements with him here. You know, A, he wants to slow his feet down anyway. He's not real fired up. He's pretty played out from his ride, so it's a good opportunity to work it. You know, this was a textbook gait right here. And stepping off of him after the gait is done tells him he did it correctly. And I know it's just patterning him for the gait work, but I might as well teach him what's expected of him now, and then we'll eventually make it a little bit more challenging. So I'm really happy with how that ride went. We were able to work on a lot of things and build on those things that we were starting with from day one. We were able to elaborate on those, and I was able to show you a little bit of why we need those things in the very beginning and what that foundation is set for. I think that was a textbook gait. The lifting and elevating the shoulder and coming across in the circles at a trot, that's a big step in the right direction for him, and he didn't get crabby about it. I started to run out of horse there, which is great, which tells me he's starting to get tired and he's getting close to being done and ready to be turned back out again. So I'm just really thrilled how this colt is coming around, and stay tuned for the next 3 rides. I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do yet because I'm not entirely sure what the weather's going to do. So stick around and make sure you subscribe. You'll get notifications that I've uploaded a video. Thanks for watching.